This is a question and answer. One of my favorite classes to give because I like kind of keeping my finger on the pulse of what's going on with the people and their meditation, and I love just talking for like 5 minutes about something. If I start talking for too long, you guys just start waving at me and I'll stop. But the questions, this is a attitude that I used to have toward it. I'm going to have the best, most deep, impressive question that anybody in the world has ever heard, and Sifu is going to hear the question and think, oh, this is a very deep student. This must be a highly evolved person. Get out of your own head about it. Don't worry about making it the most perfect question. If you've got a question, ask it. You guys that are here watching on Instagram or Facebook, you guys can type it in as well, and I'll get to it if we have time for it tonight. And you guys as well that are on Zoom, what I'm looking for is a question that is concisely worded so that I can read through it or listen to it and then start answering it. And go. Questions. Julie.
Thank you, sir. I love Kung Fu. I want to do it for the rest of my life, but my body...
Me too!
My body is not cooperating, and I'm finding there are some things that I can't do anymore that are really essential to the practice, like back falls. Is there a time when I shouldn't practice, or I feel like I'm not a good partner because I can't do some things? Help.
Help, yes ma'am. Okay, this is the experience of every single martial artist that has been practicing for any decent length of time. And as long as you are a decent person, at some point the thought is going to come into your head of, am I still being a great partner? Am I slowing down my partners? And the first and last thing that you need to hear on this subject is the answer is you are being a great partner and you should not worry about it. Because I'll tell you, some of the partners that I've learned the most from practicing with are the partners who I can't throw as hard as I possibly can, or the partners who I can't quite do this technique to or hit them quite as hard, because it causes me to have great control. It causes me to be totally in the moment and mindful. And this is one of the reasons why we need many different partners to practice with. If you only ever practiced with one partner and that partner couldn't fall, then yeah, it would be hard for you to practice certain techniques. But you being there, first of all, the experience and the knowledge that you have, the attitude that you have is all super useful for anybody to practice with. And there is, at any given time, there are multiple people who are practicing on the mats in class who can't do everything that most of us can't do everything that we want to do, but at least one or two things that you really should do in this drill that your body can't handle. Backfall is a great example of this. When I first started practicing this style of martial arts with Sifu Brown, I was 17 years old and invincible, or so I thought, and I would just fall like a madman. I'd have people throw me across the room, and I would fall hard, and I'd pop up and say, "Thank you, sir, may I have another?" I was training like Jackie Chan. If you ever read Jackie Chan's autobiography, it's a wonderful book, and he talks about learning how to roll in the Beijing Opera, and this is the training. This is the traditional training in the Beijing Opera, is they take you as a kid and they throw you through the air, and if you land in a good roll, then great, you get good at rolls. And if you land on your face or you hurt something, then you're not going to be good at rolling. And this is, not very good for anybody at any age, but when you are old and you guys think that you're old and I think that I'm old, but we're not actually that bad. There are things to consider. There are considerations to make with your practice, and it might simply be saying to your partner, "My back's not cooperating, please don't throw me, we'll just do the entrance." And every single person who you practice with will understand. There's nobody who you're going to say, "My back is injured and I need to take it slow tonight, please don't throw me." Nobody's going to feel like they're being cheated out of that if they really understand what's going on. If they have had that experience a couple of times before, they know what's up, and they also know that they're going to have somebody who they can throw later on. But look, I'm at the point where my back hurts, probably partly from throwing myself like a madman in the beginning of my practice without any sense of safety, that my back needs a break sometimes. If I do a whole class of hard falls, it hurts. And so I have to just, tell my partner, please only the entrance and take care of myself. And so if I'm doing that, then it's totally okay for you to do that. If your partner thinks today that, oh, I'm not really getting the full experience because I can't throw you that hard, then that's something that they're going to understand later on, even if they don't quite understand it today. And what does this have to do with meditation? Good question that nobody asked. Having the mindfulness to be a great partner and to also be a great partner to yourself is super important, whether you're doing it with a physical practice or your internal practice. If you're pushing yourself so hard that you are pushing yourself to injury, then this is a problem. I went to practice in Japan. I practiced at the Hombu Dojo where Ueshiba Sensei taught Aikido for many years. And he's got some students there. I mean, Ueshiba Sensei is dead, but I think some of the students there probably used to practice with him. I mean, they are actually old. There are people in their 70s, 80s, and I think 90s, and they're still doing back falls. Now, are they doing the craziest falls ever? No. But man, their tatami are like plywood. It is rough over there. You fall one time and you think, I should get better at falls. And those people are practicing with insane levels of mindfulness to be able to do that at an advanced age and for so many years without seriously getting hurt. It is certainly possible. And there are certainly people there, as there are in our school and any school, who can't fall and who shouldn't and need to be mindful about it. So my attitude towards injuries is a unique one, to say the least. I think injuries are great because they give us the opportunity to be more mindful and to recognize, okay, this is something that I can't do now, so I've got to be more creative and find ways around it. And you'll find this with your meditation practice too. Maybe your body's not cooperating with the way that you normally sit. So you've got to come up with a new way of sitting. That doesn't mean that you're not meditating. It means that you're making adjustments. It means that you are coming up with creative ways to adapt and evolve in your practice, which is going to be an incredibly useful skill as you continue over the years. Nobody practices anything that is physically or mentally demanding without feeling at some point like, I just can't do it to the extent or to the level that I want to. And if we go to the first normal reaction, which is to give up, well, then you certainly will never get it. So just keep going and have fun with it, laugh at yourself, and communicate with your partner and communicate with yourself. Listen to your body. Other question. Kaya.
I've been experiencing some conflict between my internal practice of meditating and then also in my personal life using chi energy for the purposes of healing. Mm-hmm. And then on the other hand, then using that same energy for the purpose of aggression. And I know in martial arts, it is the goal is to never actually have to get in a fight. Mm-hmm. But while learning, we're still channeling that energy. So I'm just curious.
So let me make sure that I get your question correct before I start talking. You're saying that you're finding maybe a paradox or some kind of a resistance here where it's like, on the one hand, I'm using my practice to be calm, like meditation and Qigong, healing energy. I'm trying to have this more calming kind of internal focus, but then also to be able to have aggression. I don't know if it's the perfect word, but it's probably the one that makes the most sense for a lot of you guys, or have this energy that is kind of forceful, to be able to be powerful and forceful. Or is that not quite what you're asking about?
That's ultimately intended to harm, because we're all on the
you mean just the fact that we're learning some techniques that, sure, you're learning how to poke people in the eye, and there's no other use for this other than poking somebody in the eye.
Right.
And so how do I kind of make that work for me?
Yeah, how do I have the two coexist, kind of being on the path of peace and love while also learning how to fight and defend myself.
Got it, I think. So this is a great question and a common one. So we want to recognize that, exactly as Kaya just said, we are not in this to learn how to beat people up. Self-defense should come as a consequence, and it absolutely should be happening. If you're not learning how to defend yourself in martial arts, then you're not really practicing martial arts, or at least you're practicing something that you better realize is not designed to teach you self-defense. So, you know, if you're doing, for example, we teach Tai Chi, and there is some martial application in it, but if somebody attacks you and all you've practiced is Tai Chi, and somebody's throwing a punch at you and you're just going like this, and you don't understand how to make it work, it's not going to work, right? So you should be getting, in our Kung Fu class at least, that self-defense, and you should be getting much more than that. So meditation and mindfulness, and on some level with your Tai Chi or your own practice at home, doing energy work, all of that should certainly be there. And it definitely seems to many people like a paradox, or like these things are in opposition to each other, right? I'm learning to be calm and to meditate, and yet I'm also learning how to seriously demolish somebody if necessary. And that little last part is what your whole question and experience hinges on, is the if necessary. Because let's say that you only learned how to poke people in the eye and break their knees. There's no joint lock, there's no control with, you know, grappling or anything where you could throw and run. It's literally just, I am trying to maim and destroy at the first chance I get. And let's be clear, there are a lot of martial arts that are designed to be this way, and teachers certainly that teach different martial arts this way, where it's like the first hint that you think somebody's going to attack you, you rip out their throat and step on it. I don't teach this way, because I think that we should absolutely be as peaceful as possible. And the way that I explain this is that when you're learning techniques that are you're able to do serious damage to somebody, that's something that you fall back on. So I know how to poke somebody in the eyes so that if I'm in a real self-defense situation and I'm trying to do something more peaceful, I'm trying to take control over this person and it's not working, I can have the confidence to try to do that more peaceful thing in the first place, because I know I can fall back on this more brutal technique, but also I have the ability, if it's not working, to then go to the meaner techniques. But there will be a time in your practice where those things become almost completely unnecessary. There's a great story in Karate Do, which is Funakoshi's autobiography, the founder of Karate Do. And he talks about being out with one of his students, and he's walking through the countryside, and this band of ruffians attacks him. And it's like five young guys who are, I don't know if they're trying to rob him or trying to kill him or what, but they're attacking him full out. And Funakoshi is so good that he just kind of moves and plays with them, and he's not breaking them in half, he's not ripping out their rib cage or anything crazy. He's just like throwing them and playing with them, and eventually they get tired and they know that they're not going to win, so they just slink off. And then his student asks him, "Sensei, you could have just killed them like that. Why did you just play with them and then let them go?" And his answer was basically like, if a 5-year-old is attacking you, the 5-year-old could be trying to attack you as hard as they possibly can, but you don't need to poke them in the eyes or break their knee. You can just kind of like put your hand on their head and they're like going like this as hard as they can. There's no real damage to be concerned about. There's no real danger. So if we get to a certain skill level, then, and that only happens through lots of practice, physical practice, but also training ourselves mentally, so that if we are attacked, we don't get into this, how dare you attack me, I'm going to teach you a lesson kind of feeling. you are able to keep control over yourself. And then, I mean, it's really only in the most dire situations, like you are actually getting attacked by many people who the only way out is to do these more dangerous techniques. That's the only reason that you would need to use them. And let's not let the metaphor here for our practice and our life be lost on us, because there are many times that people will come at us with aggression and anger and emotion and attack us verbally, and we can react in the same indignant kind of way, like how dare you, and let our egos get immediately involved, and that you're letting somebody else control the energy. You're letting somebody else take you out of the mental state and emotional state that you want to be in and thrust you into this state of aggression. We don't let that happen. So most of the time we can avoid a physical fight, and we can also avoid a verbal fight, a confrontation before it gets past the point where we're able to deal with it peacefully. And I mean that we can just talk in the vast majority of situations and figure it out right then and there. This requires us to get out of our little heads, to let that part of us go, get the ego out of the equation, and really just be there with this person in this situation and listen and feel. If we're able to do that, then of course there's no real violence required, but we can also keep ourselves from being verbally violent or emotionally violent, right? We're able to keep ourselves centered and calm and deal with the situation in the best possible way. So you have the techniques so that you can fall back on them. You have the techniques so that you can try something a lot more peaceful. And it is important to have that in your mind, be conscious of it, and recognize when you're practicing the Nukite to the eyes, you're not doing that with the intention of, anytime I can, I'm going to go poke somebody in the eye. It is with the intention of, this is a last resort. If I absolutely need to, and there's no other option, then I do that. And this will only be possible with that other work that you're talking about. Being able to keep calm, practicing your meditation, practicing your energy work, and all of that. I got a question from Ari. Is learning to follow someone in mirror image an expansion of awareness? How to surrender to the experience? Yes, Ari. So Ari's a Tai Chi student, and he's asking about a particularly difficult activity that we do, which is learning Tai Chi, especially over Zoom. And when you are learning anything that's particularly difficult, it is for sure going to require an expansion of your awareness. In this case, you're expanding your awareness to your partner who is on the other side of the camera from you, and you're able to simultaneously see and feel what your body is doing, and see and feel, in a sense, what your partner is doing, right? So I'm trying to teach somebody, and I'm going like this with my right hand, but the other person is trying to do it with their left hand. And as the teacher, we're trying to get people to understand that. But as a student, it's going to require a kind of fundamental paradigm shift in just your spatial awareness, and also where you are placing your awareness and where you are able to be in the present. It is both within yourself, experiencing your own breath, experiencing your own body's movement, and also experiencing what's going on over there with your partner. So this is certainly an expansion of awareness, and to surrender to the experience is very simple, but not very easy. And it is quite difficult, and requires practice, and requires an ability to surrender, as you said, which can happen in the moment, but that is what is simple about it. It is like allowing it. It's allowing those thoughts, which come from the ego of feeling like I'm not doing this right, I can't get this, and allowing those things to drop, just to fall completely, and you just kind of take the next step and leave them behind. Surrender is basically letting go of the ego, letting go of those thoughts by just being totally in the present. And sometimes, as I said before, sometimes you just have to laugh at yourself. Just laugh at yourself. That's surrender. You know that you're not doing it right, and it's funny, so laugh at yourself. And when you do that, in that moment, you get rid of those thoughts that sound like, I have to get it right, because when you're laughing, you're entertaining yourself. This is all that life and practice is on a certain level, is entertainment, whether it's for you or for me watching you guys. But laugh and let that go, because that time that you messed up happened in the past. It's not happening now. What's happening now could be anything. You could do it brilliantly, you could do it perfectly, or you can mess up in a whole other way. You got to be present for it. And surrender is a great way of thinking of it. So surrender to the moment, surrender to the process, and enjoy it, whatever it is. The same thing in meditation, right? If we sit and we meditate, and we're thinking, don't think. How come I can't meditate? What's wrong with me? How come I keep thinking? All that stuff is the opposite of surrender and the opposite of meditation. That is trying to force it. That is, you can't think your way out of thinking. You have to surrender and just feel and just be. And I laugh at myself sometimes when I meditate too, because I get, you recognize this train of thought that you've been on, which is so hilariously, ridiculously unhelpful. And so you laugh at yourself, set it aside, and just step into this moment. I would say in some ways practicing Tai Chi and trying to learn it over Zoom and doing it like a mirror with somebody else is like a koan. So the Zen koan is a riddle that is designed to shake you out of your everyday logical consciousness mind, because that part of you can't become enlightened, that part of you can't let the ego go and transcend and surrender. That part of you is always trying to get it right and fix things and do it perfectly. So koan, the most famous one being what is the sound of one hand clapping? So you can try to logic your way into this, and sure, there are some answers that might make sense logically, but the way that the story goes in Zen Flesh, Zen Bones is the student who's pondering it, he gets asked the question by the master, and then he comes back the next day and he gives his answer, and the master says, no, that's not right. And so he goes back and he ponders it some more, and he says, no, that's not right. And then he comes back and he realizes at some point that there's no way to think through this. There is just the way to shake free of your mind and just allow it to happen, allow it to flow through you. And it might not seem like a logical answer. You might not actually get to any kind of logical thing through this practice of the koan. You just laugh at yourself when you realize that there is no way to get there, and you just be. I got another question from Leah. Following the challenge of the week, if you had the time, what new martial arts style would you choose to learn and why? Ooh, that's a good question. I can answer this pretty quickly because I've thought about it before. There are really two things that I would like to learn. I would like to learn the art of Zen archery, because it's one of my favorite books, Zen and the Art of Archery. If you haven't read it yet, it's great. It's got probably the best ever explanation of Mushin, no mind, that state of mind that we're trying to get into through our physical practice and our meditation practice. And then also practicing with the sword, probably Iaido, something that's not necessarily a sport, but something that has the component of very, very real danger, like practicing with a sword, and yet is something that is very much an internal practice and an internal art. Like when we practice with sparring, there's somebody punching at us. If you're thinking about the punch coming at you, you're going to get punched, or you're going to be too slow in your counter. But if you're able to just set that aside and allow yourself to be in the moment, and it will flow through you, then that's the only way that it happens. So I've practiced some judo, I've practiced some Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I've practiced a lot of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, obviously kung fu, some taekwondo, and a few other styles, and for short amounts of time, practice aikido for a short amount of time, but I think the idea of continuing to kind of use a weapon as an extension of the body, but an extension of the energy, an extension of the feeling in the moment, to be able to flow with Mushin and No Mind with a weapon in archery or in the sword, I think would be great. You guys have questions here? Hannah, go ahead.
Sir, what's your opinion on using meditation / mindfulness apps / guided meditations to help you, like throughout your practice, like throughout your life, or like just as a starting out point?
Great question. So this is a pretty popular thing these days. Headspace, is that one of them? Is one of the most popular ones right now, and lots of different apps out there. And I'll tell you this is what Seafood Brown used to say all the time. I'm of two minds. On the one hand, I think that they are brilliant because they are getting a ton of people to meditate who probably otherwise would not have meditated. Whether it's because they just never met a meditation teacher or never got exposed to it in the way that works for them, or they need something to kind of keep them accountable. They need something that is a little bit more than just I'm sitting and breathing, because your mind is so busy that they feel like when they did that for the first time, and some of you guys have this experience as I did. You sit and meditate for the first time, and it's like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to sit and breathe and not think about anything. Oh, that's impossible. And you kind of get frustrated and give up. Well, I didn't have that option because I had already signed up for classes with Seafood Brown. And he says, like, every day, you gotta meditate. You're not doing martial arts. You're literally not doing martial arts unless you meditate. And I totally agree with that. So I meditated until I got good enough over the first couple of months where it was actually a very enjoyable experience consistently. If you need an app to do that, okay, but the problem is that word need, because as you said, if you're trying to do this throughout your practice, throughout your life, and I always like to take things to the extreme and think of it like, what if I got put in jail, or what if I got marooned on a desert island, and I don't have my phone with me? I guess I can't meditate. I'll never reach enlightenment. No, you can't use it as a crutch. If it's something that you must have, if it's something that you depend on, or you're not going to meditate, or your meditation is going to be terrible, you got to get beyond that. So I like it to start people off, and I like it not at all if you can avoid it in the first place, because it will eventually be something that you're going to have to wean yourself off of or discard, because unless it is something that can very easily be replaced, if there's an app that just simply tracks, the number of minutes that you're meditating, or how often you're doing it, and that's something that you can do with a timer, or just sitting. If it's something that is, has somebody talking to you, for example, like a lot of these apps are guided meditation. I have the same problem with that I do with a guided meditation, which is that it's great as long as your aim is to just be relaxed and you're okay with always having to have somebody talking to you. But if you're trying to transcend thought and transcend the ego, but you're kind of listening to somebody telling you what to do, it's going to be difficult past a certain point. So I think I've made it clear, but let me be super clear. If it's going to make you meditate and nothing else will, great, use it, do it. And then get rid of it as soon as possible, because it is ultimately a crutch. Just like anything outside of yourself that you need to meditate. Just like anything outside of yourself that you need for any reason, period. And we want to be able to be as self-sufficient as possible while also recognizing that there are certain things that you need a partner for in practice, and there are certain things that are certainly done better in a group. Of course, you can get a different kind of energy if you're meditating in a group of people. But if you're not going to meditate without being in a group of people or without having your app, then you're going to very easily find excuses and reasons around using the app and for whatever else. So we got to be able to take those things out of the equation, take motivation out of the equation, take apps out of the equation. It's just the thing that I do. If you want to get great at meditating, there is only one very simple way to do it. You think of yourself as somebody who meditates every day, no matter what the situation is, no matter what kind of mood you're in, no matter how sick you are, no matter if your cell phone is charged or not. You could be on a 24-hour flight with babies crying behind you and whatever else it is. You meditate because that's who you are. It's what you do. So you can get real attached to being the kind of person who meditates every day. I'm totally fine with that. And Julie, I don't have time for a second question because I've already gone too far. But I know that you're going to be back next week, so maybe I'll talk about this next week. So back to what I was talking about in the beginning of class. Your body's not cooperating. That's what I wanted to go back to. When you sit, your body's not going to cooperate. Nobody's body cooperates with, I'm going to sit for a long amount of time, because it hurts and your ego starts to try to get control over your body. Now you feel aches and itches and all kinds of reasons, reasons not to meditate, reasons why you have to get up. And we got to just let go of all of that. So sit. And whether you're sitting now for 5 minutes or 10 or 20 or an hour, it is kind of on some level a race between you being able to transcend the aches and pains, the ego, all of those thoughts that are trying to convince you that you just can't do it right now. You got to get up and move. It's a race between your ability to transcend and the ability of those things to take over and control you. So we sit, and you might not be totally physically comfortable, but sit and allow yourself to drop the physical sensations away. Focus on the breath. And when your mind wanders to the physical ache or pain or itch, let that go by coming back to the breath. Your mind wanders to a thought. This is something that I just have to get done right now. It's something that I have to think about right now. Let that go. Come back to the breath, no matter how enticing it is, because your ego is incredible at coming up with the most important reasons why we can't meditate right now. That's what the ego is for on some level, and that is what meditation is for, is to move beyond that. So sit as comfortably as possible and meditate. And good night.